Kelsey.
Hi.
Hello. Welcome to the TC office. Thank you so much for coming
Thanks
in.
for having me.
I'm so happy to be talking to you
You
today.
too. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, how are you?
Very balanced.
There we go.
Yeah, we're managing.
Okay,
Yeah.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. I have to say, someone that's written a book like this, I feel like you have the arsenal of tools behind you to like be there. So I'm happy to hear that. You do so many amazing things. I don't even know where to begin. Comedian, internet personality, social media sensation. How do you even umbrella term the work you do?
I live and die by my Google Calendar.
Yep, there you go.
I feel like I like to point to my star signs. Like I'm a Leo who likes attention.
Let's
and
do
then
it.
I'm Gemini, Moon, and Rising.
I was gonna ask about that. Are you
Yeah.
right over there?
Yeah, like I'm an emotional conduit of information. So however I can get it out, whether it be podcasting or writing or filmmaking or YouTubing, whatever, I love being a creator, and that's, feel like I'm living the dream.
We love you being a creator. Everyone that watches, no, seriously, every time I see you touch a thing, it's fun and it's cool.
Thank
Like I love
you.
your podcast. I'm constantly listening. And this book, I'm so excited to get into today because this is a whole other fish to fry. I mean, what a cool body of work. But I guess I want to start with where you start. When did you get into all this? Did you know you wanted to work in the public eye in some way? Like when did this kind of come into your life, if you will?
Yeah, so I would say I always knew I was going to be like storytelling in some aspect because I'm the youngest of the family. I'm the baby and my parents worked all the time, so I was starved for attention and like Leo, and so they put me in performing arts. They were just like, go get your energy out somewhere. So I was always in like the plays and musicals and TV productions in high school, and I really thought, you're supposed to go to school, graduate high school, and then you go to college. That's what you're supposed to do. And I went to college and I was like bored as hell, and I hated the rubric and the structure and the rigidity of college. And so I left at kind of a young age. I didn't finish, and I moved to New York City, and I was like, this is my people. These are my folks. And ended up dropping out of 2 more colleges. That makes 3 total. Before I realized I didn't need the piece of paper to start doing what I wanted to do. I could be my own director and filmmaker and agent manager just by putting myself out there. So I would say it no one's surprised in the family to hear that I'm like,
They were like,
in the
it
biz.
was all in the cards
Yes.
in some way, shape, or form.
Yes, absolutely.
And New York too. I mean, it's a big city to kind of just tackle. Was there any like fear around diving in head first, or?
What's so funny is somewhere in the deep archives of the internet, I don't know where it would be, I was in a student film where that song New York by Jay-Z and Alicia Keys had just came out. Like, I'm talking throwback.
Oh my God.
And they were like, what do you think about the song? And I was like, ooh, I love that one line where Jay-Z's like, city is a pity, half of y'all won't make it. And I always knew like, I'm gonna make it. And I say that when I was like 19, I just had that blind confidence that a 19-year-old does.
Well, that's good because you know what? I have to say, if you didn't start there, I don't know if you would have been as, I don't know, I guess the word is like viral as you are. I feel like you've kind of touched every base when it comes to media. Like, was there, I mean, with all the things you do, right? Is there one that speaks more to you, or do you just feel like all in all, just creating in any form feeds you?
Like when I worked at BuzzFeed, right? That's how most people know my face. I got like views and likes and shares and things, and I realized like, wow, that's really cool and it's something to strive for, but it didn't like help me sleep better at night with numbers. And I realized really that the impact and community around the subject I was talking about was the thing that made me like feel something and feel like I was in the right spaces, whether it be women's health or mental health or like social issues. I just knew if I could put it in a relatable sort of untraditional way, like I'm not an expert of anything by any means, that I found like these people that I could relate to and shared feedback with me. And so while, numbers and followers and stuff is cool, I didn't really find my passions until I started looking at subject matters that really resonated with me. So whatever platform it is, as long as I am having a good time doing it and really believe in it, those are my favorite things to make, you know, whether it's 15-second TikTok or like an hour documentary, like just making stuff.
Yeah, and it also just shows that like your drive isn't really about clout or fame or you know what I mean. But like truthfully, in this like internet culture we're in, I think so many people crave that platform, and then when they get on that pedestal to talk, there's like kind of a stillness. Like I actually don't know what I want to say, and like that comes with finding yourself and knowing what you like, and you seem to know that. And that's why people resonate with your work to begin with. Like you built such a community around doing just what you intuitively do. How does that feel too, like to have built such a like following or amass such a following off of even just being yourself, whether or not it's in a context that you direct, but like, does that feel good to know that there's so many people that have just found you and like have stayed and followed you as you go?
Oh yeah, I mean, I still don't believe it, right? Like I still have a hard time on like, you'll never get used to it, essentially. But it's so funny you bring that up because I literally today posted on my Instagram this meme I saw that was like, born too late to ever afford property, born too early to be a hot TikTok star, but I'm like right in the middle.
Not
of
adding all of us.
Yeah, like being a freelance artist though, like that's like, my generation. Yeah, and so I do feel really lucky in a weird way that I was a little ahead of, you know, being these viral personalities that I look at and think like, oh man, that must be so hard to feel like you have to keep up and let people into your lives. And I've really kind of taken a step back and just been like, I'm just gonna make what I want and work at that. Because hello, who wouldn't want to be one of those like famous millionaire like teen?
Oh, all I had to do was the Cotton Eye Joe on the internet and I'm lit now, millionaire, say less, it's fine.
Yeah, and
I
like
get
that
it.
sounds really cool, but you know, living out in LA, you get to see those people all the time and I'm just like, I don't have the energy. I don't have.
It takes a lot of energy to it's performing, but like almost like a two, you know, it's like two sides of the coin. It's like you're performing, literally performing, and then there's like for someone like you who's like driven off a passion, like it is a performance to like kind of not, I don't want to say sell out, but like do something that doesn't feel authentic, you know?
Yeah. It's I don't like the feeling of having to be on.
Yes.
I used to when I first came into the internet. I always felt like I had to be like saying the funniest thing and blah, 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 blah. And now I'm just like, my back hurts. Like, let me sit down.
The clickbait is canceled. It's over.
Yeah.
It's gone with the wind.
Yeah, we're done with that.
But you know what? I think that's also why, like I said before, people love what you do and who you are online, and it kind of ties into this mental health aspect. So I'd love to talk about that. You know, when did like mental health become a topic that you were maybe I guess to start focused on in general? You know, because we all have that beginning. Was that always something in your life that was prevalent, or when did you start thinking about it?
Great question. I think a lot of people have a really strong relationship to mental health before they even realize it.
Yes, definitely.
Because we're all in our heads about it. And there's years, decades even, where people don't like dive deeper into that curiosity about themselves and we stay suffering for so long. And I certainly was one of those people. You know, when I was writing the book, I thought my first panic attack was when I was 17. But when I started interviewing like my family and going back into like the history of times that I was taken to like the urgent care or like the kids hospital, I was like, oh my God, holy shit. That was a panic attack when I was like 5 and no one knew that that's what that was. And so there was really so much of my childhood and upbringing that I was struggling with. And it wasn't until I was 17 that, you know, time had kind of caught up with us. And my mom finally was like, we should go see a psychiatrist about this.
Yeah, like there's someone that knows what's going on and we should find out.
Yeah, like
I get it. Been there.
Society's been more accepting and it wasn't still another like 7 to 8 years until I started talking about it publicly. So it took, you know, I always say more than half of my life to unlearn and undo all that shame and fear I had about mental health stuff. Yeah.
Every 10 years, there's a new generation of people that are just like more and more vocal about it. But like, how hard was that journey to like really start unpacking that? Like, did it start with medication or did it start with like, I don't know, like even telling a friend at first that you're, you know, pivoting into therapy or something? I know for me that started with therapy when I was younger. Like, where did it really begin for you to unpack that?
Definitely medication. Like even talk therapy when I was 17 wasn't like a hot thing. Insurance wasn't covering it for sure. Like it was so expensive. So definitely getting on medication when I was 17 was like the first step. And then recognizing that that's only one piece of this huge pie of like mental health and self-care. And I say self-care not as like bubble baths and, you know, face masks, which are great, but, you know, making hard decisions or like slowing down or speeding something up. So it started with medication, and then that suffering that I still experience led me to be like, this can't be how life is. Like, there's gotta be something more. So I've always been, you know, like I said, double Gemini rising moon, very curious about translating information for other people to hear. And so talking about my experience publicly for the first time was super scary because I hadn't seen a lot of mental health content out there like that. But I always say it was a really accidentally selfish thing because I felt like I couldn't keep it in any longer. Like I was doing it for me because I didn't know if I could have, you know, survived without it, talking about it.
It feels though like it was meant to happen that way, because then you ended up finding all the people that needed you as much as you needed them, and then you built this community.
100%.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
So now, like, I mean, I know, like I said, a lot of things you have going on, but the podcast as well. Like, do you feel like audibly it's easier when you're talking to people, or like the writing? Like, what resonates with you the most? Or like, do you feel like they all feed into each other?
Definitely like feed into each other. I think like talking is so important, and or expressing how you feel is important. So whether it's like painting or writing or drawing, whatever, like just getting it out of your body, like yoga, dance, like tremoring, literally, whatever. But yeah, the book felt like a vomit of, you know, 12, 15 years of being in the system, and that just kind of came out. But I had to do all that time first of figuring out like where I belonged in
Well, you did a lot of the work that a lot of people are afraid to do, and it takes them picking up a book like this to start doing the work. Top 3 things that you do to ground yourself mentally, or like what are the self-care things that Kelsey needs no matter what? Like non-negotiables, physical, symbolic, like what is it for you?
Ooh, I love this question because I got so many.
Okay.
I would say number 1 is my morning routine is vital in me being like a functioning, happy, nice, gorgeous person.
I need to follow your lead on that, because I catch myself slipping all the time. Like, I'll brush my teeth after breakfast. I'm like, girl.
But it's okay. I mean, you're still brushing your teeth, and that's great. You know?
What is your routine in the morning then?
I wake up. I don't do phone. I go straight downstairs, make a like sugar-free matcha latte. I sit outside. I start playing one of my like astrology or stoic podcasts. While I fill out a journal entry, and then a mandatory 20 minutes of yoga. Like every day I have to, and if I don't, I feel so much stuck shit that I'm like, I can tell the days when I haven't done it.
Well, it's also that physical energy too. Like we forget there's like energy centers that are like, we need to activate everything before we start. Yeah, your brain, oh my God, that must make the biggest difference.
And I did a crazy thing that I never thought in a million years I would do, but during the last year, I started moving all of my meetings to start at 10 a.m. or later. I was someone that would like get up at 7 to make an East Coast call, and I said, no more. No. I need my morning is mine. And I did that, and it's been game changing for me. So like that would definitely be one. So like morning routine, putting meetings later. And I guess like my third grounding thing is diving into anything that's scary to me. Like I think it's really easy for something to pop up, because believe it or not, even though I consider myself like pretty deep in the mental health game, stuff still happens that I'm like, of course, this is overwhelming. Oh my gosh, I'm backsliding or I'm regressing. And now I know that it's okay to dive into the scary stuff, because education is power in my mind. So like the more you understand what's happening and why it's happening, the better you're gonna feel and like more control you might have over it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing that too, like those moments define you as a person, right? Like facing those fears is half the reason why you won't be afraid of it in the future. And the other half is it like why you're able to move through the muck. Like the muck that, I mean, people that struggle with mental health, like we get stuck in constantly. 100%. Makes me want to get into the book, by the way.
Sure.
We have to talk about it. Don't effing panic. First, thank you, because, no, seriously, as someone that has struggled with depression, anxiety, panic attacks, the whole shenanigans, this is seriously like a dream book.
Thank you.
like, no, and like you were saying before, you're like, you feel like just throwing it in the book, like there's a million things in your brain that are in here. I see that, but I also see it for like an encyclopedia of info. You source everything phenomenally. Like, no, and I love that because it just shows too, like education is a huge part of understanding mental health, but the other side of it is like doing the work. And you make the work fun. Like, what other mental health book has like funny little drawings and like cursing and hilarious? Like, I don't know. This just feels like what my brain can process.
Same.
So for that reason, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
When did you know you wanted to do a workbook?
Oh my
Because
gosh.
that's so specific, and
Yeah.
some people do it, some would argue, in a debatable way. This feels like a workbook in a really productive way that I'm excited to do, you know? It doesn't just sit in your closet or where, and you know.
I hope not.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. It doesn't become a paperweight.
No.
Well, like shout out to Thought Catalog because all the fun like drawings and stuff like that was from KJ, our amazing illustrator. I actually got the symbols like tattooed
Wait, I
on
just
me.
flipped to that. Wait.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And then I got the sensitive tattoo on my hand.
I love it.
So I like really
I need that on my
Catalog,
forehead.
Like, I know. It like really changed my life. So the experience has been great, and like all the citing sources and everything, Thought Catalog has really helped me understand how to like write a book. But the workbook idea really came from what I had wished I had when I was 17. Like when I had that first panic attack, you know, I had no idea how to find out any info, let alone something that wasn't so clinical or medical sounding. I couldn't find real experiences from people that weren't terrifying of just like, yeah, I've had a panic attack too, and I felt like I was dying. I was like, oh, great, cool. What else?
What do I do now? And they're like, oh, figure it out.
Yeah.
Bring it to
And
you.
I realized like part of, you know, the education of understanding mental health is really implementing it into your daily life. Like you can read something and never remember it, or like read a big long article and not have it be able to apply to you. Yeah. So with the workbook, I really wanted to be something that people put into practice and that they can put their own experience into it and say, hey, at any moment, if I'm having a depressive episode or anxiety or panic attack, I can like open this up to any page. And if I don't feel like getting really, you know, into my body, then let's go do something that's more mind focused, or like maybe I don't want to do anything mental health related and I just want to do like a crossword puzzle or like scribble and connect the dots. It's like I wanted all of that to be in there because I feel like I've experienced all
the spectrum
yes,
of like reactions to those things.
Exactly.
Yeah. You do it so well, and I have to say, literally, I was flipping through when I first got the copy, and I was like, this applies. This applies. Oh shit, this also applies. And I really like how you, one, compartmentalize it into like the 3 sections, like the main sections, but also it's not just a matter of like, oh, unpack this, figure it out, LOL. It's also like, here are breathing techniques. Here are things that I put into practice. Here are scenarios that I've experienced. And it's like, you just don't feel like you're even sitting alone with a book. I feel like you're there in a way.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. How has this process helped you impact your own mental health journey? You know, like, has that kind of checked things that maybe have been sitting in the back of the closet and you're like, let's dust that off?
100%. And like, thank you for saying all those nice things.
Of course.
It's, you know, we haven't been in person a lot for the last couple of years, so I haven't really got to hear anything about it. You know, I'll get messages and stuff, but that's so cool to hear. I would say, yeah, like the book is broken up into anxiety, panic, and depression. Those are like typically coexists with one another. And I wanted people to have something specific about, you know, anxiety. What type of anxiety? What kind of environment are you in? Like what's going on with your body? And I wanted you to be able to figure it out and say, oh, I don't understand this page, so I'm going to go to the next one and try something there. So it was important for me to kind of cover all of the ground of like what I had experienced with like the basics of my mental health experience.
Yeah, and that's the thing I love about it. I'll pass it on to you. Is that it's beautiful. First of all, gorgeous, and also, yeah, like I mean, I didn't even realize the different types of anxiety that I could have been feeling, or like depressive episodes, like like all the processes you kind of go through too. It doesn't feel like I am looking at like a clinical trial and it's like, here are all the words you need to learn. It's like, it's like, no, it's like, this is what you're going through, yes or no. It's like, yes, okay, great. And then we unpack it from there. Yeah, also, what kind of feedback have you gotten from fans? Like, I feel like maybe this would really bring your followers even closer and feel like they really resonate with you in a bigger way. Because it's, and like you were saying before, it's so easy to just be on the internet and post and do things, but like, how has this changed that dynamic with the internet?
Yeah, I mean, like you had mentioned, the way it brought up things from the past that I hadn't thought about, like it really gave me a space to go through every single, whether it be treatment or, medication or experience that I had, and get like really personal. There's stuff in here that I have never read in other books about anxiety, like TMI, you might have to bleep this out, but like there's a whole chapter that's just about how I used to shit my pants every time at the same time every morning in high school because of my IBS, and like they found it related to my anxiety and panic attacks, and I was just like, why is no one talking about the fact that like your body literally tries to expel the anxiety when you're having a panic attack? Like some people throw up, some people shit their pants.
Honestly, that's the thing about, see, this just like all resonates, because I feel like there's these things like that go so unexplained, right? Like IBS is one of those things people are like, oh, you have it? Oh, wonder why, sorry. Or like even like endometriosis, like these health issues, especially women face, that are like, well, we didn't do a lot of research on it, so we must not exist. Sorry. And it's like, actually,
the mind-body connection
is there.
Still being researched. I mean, we didn't even believe our brains could change and cause pain until like, I think 12 years ago, it was discovered like the brains are neuroplastic, which is one of my favorite sections in the book, that we've only just recently found out that not only can the brain change, but the brain must change to survive. And so the mind-body connection, which I talk a lot about in here, is really about how your mental health affects your physical health. And that's something, again, we don't talk about. Like, how could our brains be connected to chronic pain or illness? Exactly. And that's what my second book is about.
Hey.
Shout out Thought Catalog, book 2.
Always happy. We love the Thought Catalog moment. I want to also say, like, with the humor aspect, I love that you incorporate your humor, which also one of the only people that probably makes me audibly laugh on the internet.
Thanks.
I mean that. I mean it when I say it.
You're like, I'm so hard right now. That's all I ever want to hear.
Oh my God. No, so like how also that, I feel like that could easily be like a fine line, between teetering on like coping through humor, but then also like coping through humor in a healthy way, and like reminding people that like, we can be lighthearted about heavy things. Just because you feel like it's heavy in the moment doesn't mean I can't explain something to you in a fun way that makes you feel more connected to it. Like,
totally.
Has that helped you with your own journey?
Yeah, and I find like I kind of mentioned it in the book, but like there's this weird humor that when you've been to your darkest, deepest rock bottom, like you recognize that in someone else, and you guys can like talk to each other on the way.
I have friends like that. I'm already thinking of them right now.
Yeah, and like you can't explain a panic attack all the way to someone who's never had one. Like you either have had one and you get it, or you don't. Yeah. And so there is a lot of language in here, mostly comedic. I try to take scary topics. I mean, there's certainly stuff in here about like suicidal ideology and, not being able to shower when you're depressed, or, losing jobs or friends or relationships over this stuff. So if there was a way for me to put a healthy comedic verbiage to it, then that was definitely my goal for sure.
Oh, and you did a great job. There's a quote I want to quote you on. A quote you said, a thing you said that I liked. You must forgive yourself for doing whatever it took to survive.
Big one for
me. You must forgive yourself for doing whatever it took to survive. What does that look like to you? Like, what did you have to do to survive? I don't want to ask you something that's really heavy, but like,
are you kidding?
I just say like, what? Yeah, and
that's like what the entire book is.
Yeah, I know, but like, yeah, like, I mean, when you hear that, like, what comes to mind for you?
I was so fucking hard on myself for so many years of being like, why can't you just be normal? Why can't you stop thinking about this thing, or just like shut up that mean voice that's in the back of your mind? I was so cruel to myself, and so much self-blame and so much self-shame that I must have done this to myself somehow, or why can't I figure it out? Like, it was so dark and awful the way that I spoke to myself. And that manifested in super unhealthy ways, drinking in excess, like drug use, all that stuff that is, ended up being way more detrimental than helpful. And it took me time to recognize that wasn't helpful, because helped me in those moments. It was like a Band-Aid over a bullet hole. So like if there's one line that someone can walk away with remembering that in times of struggle makes them feel better, then like the whole thing was worth it.
I have 5,000 lines.
Oh, thanks.
No, seriously, every word. I'm like,
it.
oof.
Oh, good.
I love it so much. Do you always look at your goals, let's say, like as North Stars when you're working, you know, or like when you're in like a dark place with mental health? Is that always something that pulls you out, or is that more of like a occasional thing that can help you?
Yeah, I like to be someone who is working on multiple projects at once. Like with what I do, you have a bucket for this and that, and I like to come back to, if I don't feel like I could do this thing today, if it just feels too overwhelming, pivot and have something to do to feel productive. Right. And even the days where I'm like, I don't feel like I can get anything done today, I've had to learn that a rest day, when you're just beating yourself up about not working, is not a rest day.
No, it is a conscious effort to beat yourself up.
And it's like, wait, I spent the whole day feeling bad that I didn't work today. That wasn't a rest day. So like, I've just started to recognize how to not feel guilty when I feel like I can't be the most productive version of myself. So I have a good day jar. So whenever something really great happens in my life, whether it be like I sold a show or I just did my like wing liner really good that day, I write it on this piece of paper and I put it in this jar. And so days where I feel like I can't like get out of bed or it's just too much, I'll go to the good day jar and be like, oh yeah, I am that bitch. Like I have done shit and I deserve to be okay today with whatever that means.
On those days too where you're trying to be still, like what does that look like for you? Because I'm mood. Are you a show person? Because sometimes I find myself like I low-key pivot towards like, okay, YouTube, but then maybe Netflix, but like I don't know, like are you I mean also you produce stuff, so yeah, that's a whole other thing. So do you get inspired by other films, I'm guessing? Like,
I am like the worst YouTuber ever because I don't watch a ton of YouTube stuff.
Well, you do a million things, so we could cut you some slack.
No,
like there's a lot of
like,
things you don't do.
I do love me some TikTok. I could scroll I could doom scroll.
Doom scroll.
For a long time, like a long time. And that's okay, you know?
What is your For You page like? I'm so, there we go.
Dogs,
we
mental
got the same
health.
algorithm, okay, there we go.
Yeah, it's like dogs, mental health, book talk.
Book talk.
It makes me feel good. I see a lot of thought catalog.
Thought catalog, yeah, exactly. Thought catalog, book talk.
Yeah, and I've been really conscious about like, okay, if I'm going to just binge social media for like the afternoon or watch shows, I'm really trying to, again, put stuff in front of me that's like good for my brain. You know, unfollow those chaotic news accounts or like, you know, fast updated news or meme accounts. Like I just want stuff that feels good, is body positive, you know, like pro women, like getting that in front of you, whether it be your eyes with social media, your ears with podcasts, like your environment with the people you hang around with. It's been such a conscious effort for me to take out the shit that feels toxic and really focus on the good. And there's so much happening in the world that can be overwhelming, but knowing that I just take it day by day and like what feels really good today has totally shifted my perspective of not thinking too much into the future or too much into the past.
Do you find yourself clearing out who you follow a lot? Like I can imagine that's also difficult.
Yeah.
It's like, so many ties.
My audience is dope. Like I love the things they recommend to me.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Same though, I'm like a fan. And like I don't really get people, like of course there's always trollish behavior or someone who sees you for the first time and just feels free to like comment on your life and appearance.
And you're like, oh, that's hilarious.
I know, but honey, the block button, never been easier to press. Like after being on the internet for 12 years, I just don't let that stuff bother me. And I'm like, oh gosh, I haven't posted a TikTok in like 2 weeks. I'm falling off. And it's like, the internet has room for everybody.
Yeah, and they forget like, I mean,
Yes.
2 weeks is like, they wouldn't even know anyone was gone until you start posting all the time. Like, oh my God, she's
like,
back.
someone could rediscover you every day, you know? And so I find like, though it can be chaotic, and I will definitely find myself sometimes getting in like a Twitter thread where I'm like, ooh, let me just follow some messy drama and tea and like see where we're at. And I just try not to make it a habit. Like I'm guilty of it, but I can catch myself and be like, is this serving my higher self right now?
Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But sometimes subconscious, the little things that you think aren't, sometimes are a byproduct of like, like the self-care, like actually resting and being like, you know, I'm gonna just do some goofy, silly stuff right now. I don't have to think about it too much. Like, not everything has to feel super productive to be productive. I think that's the biggest thing. And that's something I've learned in your book too. It's like, no, yeah, like the idea of like even sitting with yourself and processing feelings and journaling and doing all these things, like hearing your morning routine, first of all, I need to start getting like that regimen going.
Yeah, but you're young. You have time. You still do you.
But also even so, it's like it just shows like those things can benefit you at any time. And if I could start now, oh, smooth sailing.
And like some people are nighttime routine people. Like some people need that sleep. And honestly, it changed when I quit drinking alcohol.
So tell me about that. So when did that happen and why? And I know you talk about it on the internet, but it was just so great because sobriety for so many people can be daunting.
Yeah, I actually got sober while writing this book. So it's funny because like half of it,
a good influence in many
ways.
ways.
I like think I write about it in here. I was like, LOL, I stopped drinking today. Like,
you're like, so that's a thing.
Yeah, there was like a day that I stopped. So it'll be 3 years soon. And I used to be like the internet's alcoholic. Like I was in every drinking video, like at BuzzFeed. I was the girl that could outdrink everybody. And I found so much pride in that. And it really was like a product of my environment that I was raised in, where it was like cool to be the girl really good at beer pong. And like it's all heteronormative patriarchy
for
shit.
Sure.
Like I just wanted guys to like me. And I was like, wait, I'm bisexual and fuck that.
Yeah, like I don't.
I had been serving this identity, literally like serving it shots and booze that when I realized wasn't me, but it was like a mask I'd been wearing my whole life. It was so freeing. And I started getting up earlier. Your body just wakes up when you're not hungover.
Oh.
It's so crazy. I was like, no,
wait,
sleep.
It's almost like it knows how to live.
Yeah, I was like, no, go sleep until 11. And my body was like, no, you're fine. Get up and like live.
Get up now, you're good.
You're not like taking a literal depressant every day. And like, we forget alcohol is literally ethanol. It is poison we are putting in our bodies. And I just think the whole drinking culture is a whole nother subject and maybe my third book, but like, yes, getting sober changed. Like I used to be a night person and now I love the mornings, and it ebbs and flows, and there's no, pressure and boundaries to be a certain way just because you see people doing it like on Instagram, right? Compare and despair.
Oh my God, it's so like toxic. And it's like as the internet starts to evolve too, we've seen a change from like Facebook culture, which still exists, but then there's like Reddit and da-da-da, and then there's like these very outward facing performances that we're seeing people do every single day. Now I'm sure play looks like something else for you. Like what's that work-life balance like? I know we were talking about, letting yourself breathe. Are weekends for you?
I'm in a very privileged position. Like I have to acknowledge that like I am a cis white woman that works for herself, and I have the luxury. It's a freaking luxury to be able to schedule things when I want to and like choose projects. And that came from lots of years of not having that luxury. Right, but like I recognize, and I think a lot of people over the last couple of years have realized like they want freedom back, and they don't want to be chained to this like system that, perpetuates all the crappy stuff that
hustle culture too. It's like this toxic like cycle.
I was like all that girl boss energy when it was popular. It was like I was sucked into the consumerism of it. I was like, I want to project success, and what I was doing was like not being intersectional first of all, but also it was promoting patriarchy just with a pink sticker on it,
like a bow.
Yeah, and like, so I feel like for me now, it could look like I got a blow up hot tub, and sometimes
power move.
Yeah,
first of all,
it was not expensive. It was worth every penny, and I get in it sometimes at like 8 a.m. You know what I mean? Yeah, or like last week, my partner and I went to a Little League baseball game that we had no child and we didn't know anyone. We just were walking by. We're like, let's watch this Little League game, and it was so fun. We were like screaming and cheering in the stands for these like 10-year-olds.
And you're like, this is the energy I'm on right now.
You don't have to constantly be grinding, whether it looks like removing yourself from toxic work or family or friendship situations. Like you are the author of your own life, and at any moment you are free to turn the page and start writing something new. Like you are never bound to the life that you think is what you've chosen or what you created. Like you can literally start over at any point in your life. And I think that it just seems too hard to do, but taking little baby steps towards what you feel like is really healthy for you, whether that be learning how to take off more time, learning how to get more structure, getting an assistant, like whatever that is, it's your life, baby. Like you've won. And I'm trying to be cozy and comfortable at all moments for the rest until I die.
All moments of the day. And I have to say, just not to keep harping on the book, but to keep harping on this book, Don't Effing Panic taught me that in so many ways. And as someone with anxiety, and I know you've been there and bought the t-shirt and also buy this t-shirt, thought catalog, per.
One of my favorite quotes is, nothing changes if nothing changes. And like, it's so basic and simple, but really nothing's gonna change if you don't change anything. Right. If we just keep allowing the neural pathway patterns we've created to just continue on that hamster wheel, like we will literally not get out of it. Yeah. But there are simple things that you can start implementing in your life to start making new neurons firing off. Like you are never stuck, even though it can feel like it and it feels like these little movements you have to implement might take longer periods of time. Everyone, of course, wants that quick fix, that like pill you can take or that thing that will make everything better. But you're so right in that it is hard work, and it's a very brave thing to decide to work on yourself, and creating space for that and empathy for yourself for that when you do the work. That's what I want people to remember, is like, you can change and you have to change, and you're gonna be okay. This too shall pass.
Don't effing panic. It's gonna be okay.
You wrapped that up so good. You wrapped that up so good.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. And thank you for doing the work so we could do the work. And is there anything people need to know about the book that I may not have touched on already?
It's for sale on Shop
there
Catalog.
There we go.
Link in bio or whatever.
So good. I love it. Everyone's gonna love it. And I love you. You're awesome.
You're so great.
Thank you. Of course. Thanks for being here. Thanks, guys, for watching. This has been a Thought Catalog video, part of our As We Create series. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you later. Bye.